this year just got a little bit better here for NC State men's basketball and Justin Gainey and NC State fans worldwide, as Ven-Allen Lubin has announced that he is back, and he was back at practice today, even too as well, rocking a little bit of a new hairdo as well, a little bit shorter hairdo there. But man, I saw that news and the emotions was crazy to say the least for sure. So making give me your initial reaction when you saw that notification on your screen that Van Lubin is returning to NC State for his 5th year of eligibility.
Yeah, I thought, man, that's just a sweet addition, and it's nice for like the personal reasons with Will Wade, like kind of take a jab at that, whatever. But it's like Bill Lubin was a really good offensive player. He over 13 points per game, and I want to say averaged over 7 or 8 rebounds a game.
Yep.
Um, and everybody was hating on him. The jokes running around, oh, he's a 6'8", 6'9" center or whatever. But like the guy can play. He's definitely an offensive player. And this is just an added boost where we had discussions here on the show a few weeks ago where you don't know there really could be a rotation. I think the most interesting part of this team on as far as rotation goes is going to be the front court this next season because you have options with Lubin now, Jurkovic, you got Yalaho at the 4. I even mentioned Kyle Evans at the 5. Who's to say when Mikey Wilkins could play, if at all, now at this point? So, um, you know, I I'm really excited what it means for state. I don't know. Do we want to go into the stats, Layton? I don't know how far I want to go into this, but it's a
Oh, that's my
it, it
stat
def-
pack. Whoa, 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 whoa.
yeah, I'm gonna say, I wanna make sure about that. It's a really nice addition on the offensive end, I'll just leave it at that, so
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, guy in Van Lubin who last year, like you said, making 13.6 points a game, a team high 7.1 rebounds per game, 66.8% from the floor, had 8 double doubles, double figures in 27 of the 34 games, which is also too, I think,
really, I actually
probably
didn't
the
know
most
that.
impressive stat. But again, I don't want to ruin Ethan's stat pack. But the one thing I do want to say is, you know what? And we're going to jump over actually, since we don't necessarily have it here, we're going to jump on over to really, what grinds my gears here to give this justice
You know
here.
what really grinds my gears?
First of all, to the probably 2 different UNC accounts that I noticed that were, griping at NC State fans saying, "Dude, like, what is it with you guys and Will Wade, man? Like, it's like he's your ex-girlfriend or something like that, man." It's like, listen, I even tried to think about like Ethan making help me out. Like, is there a UNC equivalent to what that man down in Louisiana pulled, on NC State? Like, I try to think about, like,
Well, the fact that they got so much national attention when all this stuff unfolded, in the springtime,
right,
that I don't think there's really many schools ever who have that situation happen to them,
not like that.
especially with the nature of the transfer portal now going on and what the implications are with that, so and
Mhm. Yeah,
especially with his old background with the whole FBI scandal, I'm a clean cut guy now. I realize who I am and what I need to go. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I think there's nothing UNC I don't that I can think of. They've had such a long tenure with some really great coaches,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't think there's anything like that.
I mean, literally, Ethan, I literally watched and listened back the Will Wade, introductory press conference today just to like, okay, now the hindsight 2020 here. Let me listen back here. And first of all, we've already talked about it, but man, it was so cookie cutter to our introductory press conference. It wasn't even funny. Our time is now. But the quote that really stood out to me, Ethan, which I want to talk about, was he said, "We're gonna go find 15 players in the portal that want to wear those letters LSU on their chest." And I'm sitting here like, are you going to find 10 players? Are you going to find 8 players? Are you sure you're going to find 5 players? Mr. Wowe, that's my question. You're sitting here right now with 4. So, I mean, and you came particularly at 2 of our players that you heavily pursued in Paul McNeil and Ven-Allen Lubin here. And you're 0 for 2, my friend. So, listen, the national media, I would love for First Take to talk about. Hey, they love talking about Will Wade and what he did, but listen, man, in my opinion, it says a lot about Will Wade and the fact that 2 of your star players from last year, who you probably offered more money than we did, still said no to you.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. It
Mhm.
says a lot about Will Wade. Like you're right. I don't think NC State was the highest bidder.
Mm-mm.
Certainly not on Paul McNeil, and I highly doubt on Ven-Allen Lubin. And so number one, I do think it says a lot about both coaches, and I think it feels like probably maybe a little overreaction. Um, and like, is it more so one or the other? But ultimately, like, I think it's a great sign for Justin Gainey that he's now won a couple of recruitments, head to head against Will Wade, makes it a nice story and catches headlines, but
Mhm.
ultimately, like, not as the highest bidder. And, does Will Wade, do his actions help NC State here? Yeah, sure. But NC State still has to go out and win the recruitment.
Mhm.
Like those weren't the only schools. Excuse me, LSU wasn't the only school on Paul McNeil and on Ven-Allen Lubin, right? Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma was in it with Ven-Allen Lubin, right? I'm sure there could have been more too. And for McNeil, like there was a number of schools that got mentioned with him. And so to me, it's probably equally like a great sign for Justin Gainey that he was able to win those recruitments while not being the highest bidder, and a bad sign for Will Wade, and potentially more trouble to come in future years. That if if this stunt is going to cost you down the road, I never really thought it will, because I kind of still view it as, at the end of the day, money talks, and maybe
Yeah.
it's a 1 year thing. Who knows? But being as significantly bidding significantly more money and not winning those recruiting battles, like that's concerning.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
like that's concerning. And so yeah, I don't know. I think there's reaction on both sides to this, but again, I'm just pumped. Like to me, these guys coming back would be huge news for State fans, for State in general, right? Not just fans. Whether it was LSU or whether it was somebody else. And so the fact that it is Will Wade going to LSU does maybe make it a little bit more of a storyline, but to me, that doesn't change the excitement about getting those guys back, and the team that you've put together for next season.
Yeah. You got Rob here in the chat saying, wow, the guy who will not be named is getting his just desserts. And then Chilton saying, I could not be happier for LSU and their 5 basketball players. Do they have 5 now? I thought it was still 4. But yeah, I mean, so because the other thing that
That's
really
fine.
grinds my gears is thinking back to when the transfer shooting guard from Wake Forest who committed to Tennessee,
Juke
uh,
Harris.
Juke Harris, thank you. When he committed to Tennessee, all kinds of NC State fans were saying, "Oh, so even without Justin Gainey, who was this great recruiter, Tennessee was still able to get one of the top transfers in the portal here." And now, just like you said, Ethan, now you're seeing Gainey, start to show his recruit muscle a little bit here. So again, in-state fans got to give Gainey all the props in the world here for sure, and especially too because Ethan, I wanted to ask your thoughts too on this. Do you feel like in order to get Ven-Allen Lubin that Gainey, you know, whoever it is on an internal basis had to go to some boosters and ask for additional funds to make it happen?
Oh, no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Van-Allen Lubin certainly wasn't cheap. He wasn't cheap last year. Was probably, I think, probably more expensive this year. And as far as as far as I know, NC State was out of funds. Like that, like
Mhm.
Paul McNeil. I mean, I know they added Yurkovich afterwards, but Paul McNeil was it. Like that was the last of, not the last, but I guess the last of significant use of funds. So yes, I think they did have to go back to some big time donors who have a lot of cash and love NC State basketball.
Yeah.
And I think a number of reasons that you're able to win that recruitment, but you look at it saying, hey, this is one of our guys. We got him from UNC. He had a great year for State, and you're recruiting against Will Wade, right? Like that's a great sales pitch. Say, hey, we don't need to be the highest bidder, and you can use Paul McNeil as a reference. We won that recruitment without being the highest bidder, and we beat Will Wade, and how awesome was that? Now we have a chance to do it again. So that's kind of the way I view it. Where yeah, you definitely like this wasn't like, oh, State just had a pile of cash. They went
Right.
to the bank and took some money out of the checking account. I don't think that happened. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like that's kind of I guess that's my impression of it.
Yeah. So we'll jump on back over here to our normal background here. So, but Macon, I want to ask you though. Uh, First of all, in your opinion, because everybody is immediately, it seems like, kind of penciling him in at the 4 spot. Last year he shot 66.8% while being played mostly at the 5. Do you really uh view it that way, Macon, that Ven-Allen Lubin last year was out of position at the 5 and that he's more designed at the 4?
No, I think the way he plays is more resembling a 5. He's just maybe a smaller 5 than what people would like to see, generally speaking, because people think 5s are thinking, 6'9", 6'10", or above. He is 6'9", but I would just think he's people. I saw some joke somewhere about how he went from 6'8" to 6'9" in the offseason. That's cool, but the for him, I think he could play the 4. Uh, he would definitely I benefit if he could have some sort of stretch play there. I don't know if he has that in his game, which is why I tend to think plays more like a 5. But I don't know what that could look like. Could they have a setup where they want to have a couple bigs playing the floor that rebound the ball well, and you get Lubin and Evans on the floor at the same time to do that? Have some interesting offensive setups, or Jurkovic or Lubin, or Jurkovic and Evans, or you get I don't know what the best combination is here, which is why I say the rotation in the front court is probably going to be the most interesting thing for me to watch as the season develops heading into ACC play. Cuz you kind of know in the guard spots what you're going to get. It's going to be Ed Mead, probably Hammond, and then McNeil 1, 2, 3 starting lineup, but you just don't. I mean, there's really a lot of combination there you can go at the 4 and 5 spot. So we'll see. But I do think Lubin could play, some 4. I just think he's probably, as of what we saw last season, his game's more of a 5 in my mind. So
Yeah, no, agreed.
Yeah,
And
I think
go
he
ahead, Ethan.
plays out of position at the 4, right? If that's the way, like, you talk about, is he playing out of position at the 5?
oh, is
No, I
that
think
the
you
question? Is that the question? He plays out of position in the 4 spot, like he should be playing a
Well,
5.
just which position is he more natural? Like, what's his
Okay.
natural
the
fit, the
5.
5 or the 4?
Yeah, the 5 for sure. He's a little undersized, but I think the way he plays, it just doesn't matter. And to me, we've grown accustomed to NC State basketball, right? And it's kind of weird. Maybe not weird is not the right word, but the way they use the 4 has been the same across multiple coaches. You don't have to play that way. You don't have to say, "Oh, this is a small ball," using quotation marks, right? 4, who, okay, we're going to prioritize 3-point shooting. Like you think about like Jericho Helms, Torin Dorn. I'm trying to think like in more recent years, obviously Darion Williams. You had Dontrez Styles with Kevin Keats. You don't have to play that way. You can play 2 bigs, right? Like it's not against the rules. And I do think with the way that basketball has kind of evolved over the last 10, 15 years, people have just gone to more shooting, more shooting, more shooting. You ask me, I think NC State has enough shooting with the other 3 guys, with the bigs that you're bringing off the bench, to say, hey, Ven-Allen Lubin and Kyle Evans are good enough at everything else. We have enough good shooters around them. We don't really care about the 3-point shooting. That's the way I would be approaching it. Um,
Yep.
Again, just because they're good enough at other stuff. And you have enough you have enough shooting. You're allowed to play big. And so this to me is more like one of those vintage Roy Williams teams where it's like they're playing 2 big guys. This is how Tennessee played. Tennessee played with 2 bigs. They were playing 2 guys at 6'9" the majority of the time. And the last thing, well, I don't know if it's the last thing because obviously it's a big talking point. But another thing I would throw out there is you talk about how they're going to play together. I don't know how much they're really going to be playing together, right? If you give them both 25 minutes a night, that's only 10 minutes of overlap. You're playing the other 30 minutes of the game with only one of them on the court.
But also too,
And
depending on the opponent build, I mean, an Evans Lubin duo at the 4 and 5 could work, and
yeah,
that could go up against any big build
yeah,
out there that State's going to see the next season.
yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And, again, like there's issues with it. It's not a perfect fit, but
Mhm.
to me, it just doesn't matter because Lubin is such a good player. And same thing with Evans. Like I don't want to take either one of those guys off. And so To me, it's the other guys, the guys that you would be playing to play small that kind of take a hit. But somebody, I don't remember where I saw this example, somewhere on the wonderful internet. The greatest shooting team of all time, the Golden State Warriors, they played 2 non-shooters, Draymond Green and then a center, before they kind of before they became the vintage Warriors and played Draymond at the 5. But they played a center, they played Andre Iguodala who didn't shoot, they played Draymond Green who wasn't a shooter, but their other shooters were good enough to where it didn't matter. And again, not that Preston Edmeade is Steph Curry and that kind of stuff, but it's kind of the idea, you have 3 guys that can shoot it at a well above average clip.